Good morning, Crüe Nation. Or county, down.
How's everyone doing today?
Excellent, and welcome to the Crüe NFC Roundtable. Today we'll be discussing several things, of course. We have birthday boy Jerry, go Niners. And
40s never look so rough.
Yeah, not
he's a
there yet.
49ers fan. All that stress with 2 yards. Can you believe it?
Preseason's upon us finally, yeah?
They want to watch that game, a preseason game.
I was going to say, anyone watch that high school exhibition?
In the country versus the local high school, yeah.
That's always what you get when you get the 49ers playing.
That was nice of them to let the Raiders play on good behavior.
Right.
Guys. But
I mean, that game really didn't show much of anything. I mean, it was football, so you can't argue with that, but it really wasn't. It was football, but it wasn't, right? It just felt like it was.
yeah. I mean, it depends on who you talk to. If you talk to a certain Raiders fan, they look phenomenal, and doesn't discredit the fact that they were against the Jaguars. But yeah,
It's preseason. They should wear those little helmet covering things that they get.
I agree. I mean, I know it sounds stupid, but they make them wear it all the way in training camp till week 2 of preseason. So after next week, they won't be wearing those safety shells any longer. They'll be just going for the hard thud of actual impact. But why is it less important to wear it during a game other than, being able to see your logo and the NFL getting their merchandising out? I mean,
aesthetics, yeah.
But that's another topic for another day. So there wasn't much going on in the league other than, a couple injuries here and there. No real big signings in my area, but I know Jerry had some things going on. You had some stuff going on. You want to start up north? You want to let Jerry kick it off?
Okay. Well, the Bears haven't really done a whole lot this week.
All right, well, wait. Shush. Man.
Ripping and raring to go, man.
All right.
So the Bears haven't had like 40 different transactions like they normally do. They're always very, very active. But I have to admit that they really didn't do a whole lot. Bears preseason is coming up. They're going to be playing. I don't know. I guess they've had success somewhat recently. I guess
Yeah.
I don't even.
But again,
there's a possibility we actually might have been able to pick up Mahomes, once upon a time. But
will that ever die in Chicago? Will that ever be something that goes away? Or will that always be we could have had Patrick Mahomes?
Well, if you actually look at the big picture, with the problems with the general manager of past and coaching staff and things like that, it was one of those things where if you had somebody who was, how do you say this, smart? No. Sees into the future? No. It's just one of those things that, we actually could have. I don't know if they necessarily would have wanted paid $500 million for a player over a 10-year period. But then you also come up with the idea that there's a possibility that Patrick Mahomes wouldn't have the success simply because the Bears were having major issues with their offensive line and things like that. So,
Yeah, I get that, but will it ever go away? I mean,
once we actually hoist the old trophy again, then yeah, I think it will.
So the answer is no. Let's move on.
Wow.
No, seriously.
it is not.
I don't think I want to talk to you anymore. So anyway, but no, I think there's a strong possibility that it eventually will, just simply because of the fact that once you actually get success, especially if Justin Fields has the success that we're hoping he will, revamped offensive line, things like that. It just might be one of those things where Patrick who
Yeah.
you never can't tell. And like I said, I haven't had really that much of an opportunity to delve into the other teams. I know Green Bay was actually rather light this week also. Minnesota was light. Everybody, there was a whole lot going on. I think it was just everybody gearing up for preseason. So,
did you guys see how Aaron Rodgers showed up to camp?
Yeah, we saw that. Remember, we had the whole bit last week. Hands her way.
I was making a joke.
Yeah, we know. It wasn't good.
The first criteria of jokes is it has to be funny. If you would have just said 49ers, that is fun.
Yeah.
Grandpa Tom, I think Tom Brady's what was the meme that I'd seen? Calvin Johnson, I guess, had gone to high school, college, played several years in the professionals, and made the Hall of Fame, all while Tom Brady is still playing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's just insane.
There's people in the league that weren't even born when he was drafted.
Right. So.
Yeah. That is insane. You think about it. I mean, that's when they still had like regular T-shirts and shorts for the combine. So the skin plate wear that they have to don.
So seriously, back at the Bears, Holcomet's been looking good in training camp. He has said that it's been the hardest training camp, hardest practice he's been through since being with the Bears organization. Now, is that because of the coaching change, or you think he just didn't want to play for what's his name up there? Name that will not be named.
It could be both, actually. So if you think about, let's just say there is a tenuous, connection to the Green Bay Packers. Hey, by the way, where's the Packer Becker? So Eberflus, of course, came from that organization. So naturally, you're going to have some sort of a familiarity to it. And I think it was just because the quarterback might be a little bit. He might have a little bit extra. Who knows that he gets along with better than Aaron Rodgers. Old Aaron. So you have a better connection. You have he's certainly more athletic in my opinion than Aaron. He can certainly run a little bit faster. He can juke a little bit better and things like that. I mean, Aaron is pushing 40 also.
To be fair, Aaron Rodgers has been tripping balls.
I suppose.
How do you say something like that? I mean, even if it is true, how do you come out on a podcast or a newscast or a commercial, whatever it is, how do you come out and say that you were taking hallucinogenics while playing in the NFL? And how does the league allow that? How does it not get investigated? But that's crazy. Anyway.
I also think it's one of those things that he's one of the premier players in the NFL, and what are you gonna do?
No, it's. I get it, but why? Why would you do that?
I just simply think he doesn't care anymore. Not to that level. He might care about play, he might care about the game, but what people think about him and things like that, I don't think he. Have you seen his appearance last week? When we were kind of making fun of. Not only is he going to steal your catalytic converter, but Karen Poe there, he's it looks like he's got some L'Oreal thing going or something with his.
I don't know. I mean, with all the Deshaun Watson news going on, I guess it was the time to do it because you're not going to get looked at twice when the league's battling this old black eye. But if that were any slow week during the season, something was going to get done, right? Am I wrong? I mean, you would think they would at least launch an investigation.
I think he's just taking everything as a joke. Like he just thinks it's funny and to see how far he can push it, and just keep making a joke and a mockery of everything. Like he's not out there trying, he doesn't care, it is what it is, and just keep going with it, just to see how far he can push the limits. And it's his way to stay relevant because everybody just talks about Brady, right? Like,
well, I mean,
he's not doing anything in the playoffs.
If he didn't care, you'd think he would do it. Or he wouldn't do it now. It'd be when there was no news, so his name would be on the forefront.
Yeah.
Because honestly, you would see that getting plastered everywhere on social media if there wasn't all this garbage going on with Deshaun Watson, Robert Kraft commenting, Big Ben commenting. It's like, okay, I'm going to tell everyone I'm dropping acid before I play. Not that he was dropping acid. He was doing some witchcraft brew or whatever the hell it was. But it's just, I don't know. Anyway.
Other than some fermented cheese.
Other than Green Bay being in the news for that, there was no real news coming out of camp for them. Detroit had their family day, and he promised that they were coming into the season hungry. I'm guessing starving for 50 damn years to make you hungry. So, I mean, there's no real news in the North. Am I wrong?
Well, they might have to wait till the Thanksgiving game when they pull out that six-legged turkey. But
that turducken.
Making quite a bit of noise. I mean, this week, of course, they really had like nothing going on either. But Detroit's making a lot of noise. Similar to the Bears, and we talked about it last week, is that probably going to end up being a little bit better than what people were thinking. Their offense is probably, it's shaking itself out, but once it actually starts to flow, so to speak, even with their quarterback, they're probably going to do pretty well. Your running back is going to be strong. Your offensive line is going to be stronger. Your defense is actually going to show you a little bit of life. So the only thing you really need to kind of really concentrate on is to make sure that, your quarterback is doing what they're supposed to do. It's just one of those things. And, of course, the Bears are going to be, undefeated this season, but it's just simply one of those things.
Right.
37-0, you heard it here first.
Right.
And then if you go to Minnesota, again, Minnesota's Minnesota. Minnesota tends to not do a whole lot, but when everybody's gearing up towards, for their first preseason and things like that, you got to think that there's a little bit more on their plate than really transactions and stuff. Now, I would imagine, like, after week 2, you're going to have a lot of things. People are going to get dropped, people are going to get signed, people are going to get on the practice squad, things like that. So, stay tuned next week. There might end up being quite a few little changes.
Yeah, the Vikings are going into Las Vegas for their first preseason game. And, you're going to get the Raiders. They're going to start playing a couple more of their starters a little longer. Still don't think you'll see Derek Carr for maybe more than a series. But for the Vikings, it will be a real test for them because they're going to be able to put their first team out against the first team for the Raiders for at least, I would say, a quarter, you would think. And they'd get a real look. I don't think Kirk Cousins is going to play much. Other than that, I mean, Dalvin Cook probably won't play. But I think the Vikings-Raiders game will be a real good practice to where they can see where the progress is and see where their defense is coming to.
Yeah, but with Minnesota, you don't have a lot of major changes to their team. You might have a player or two, one of those type of things, but you're probably going to end up getting what you got last year. Now, you could say that because the player's a little bit older, they might have lost a step, whichever the case is. But Dalvin Cook, of course, is getting up there in running back years. So he may have lost a step. So instead of 1,200 yards, maybe he's going to be at 1,000, 900. But he's still a solid player. Catches the ball out of the backfield. He blocks like there's nobody's business. And you kind of need that, especially with Kirk Cousins not being the most fleetest of foot.
Right.
He does have pretty good accuracy. His arm could be a little stronger, but he has good accuracy, and he does what he has to win. So we talked about that too.
Well, I said when he was drafted by the Redskins that he would be the one that starts in the league longer than RG3. I mean, the Commodores. The Commodore 2000s. But yeah, I mean, you could just... Not that he was a better quarterback, he was just a more efficient quarterback. And I think they will.
Don't mean to interrupt, but I mean, that's total play style, though. You think about it like this. Robert Griffin, of course, always running. That's why it's kind of surprising when you see Lamar Jackson, for example, who's actually still running around and still productive, simply because of his style. Maybe he can just take a hit a little bit better because he's a little bit bigger. But RG3, not to mention the fact that I think his first major injury, unfortunately, was something that he was actually planning a foot, and I believe his knee went out at that time. If memory serves, it's been a few years. But just that simple play style, it's almost like you have like a major breakthrough in a player or a style, and everybody else has to, of course, catch up. And then when they finally catch up, then you have another player that's going to leap ahead, and then you have to kind of catch up and things like that. I think Robert Griffin might have been just a slight bit just slightly, maybe a couple, 2, 3 years ahead of his time. Unfortunately, this particular case, injuries are kind of what cut him short. But thanks, man.
Anyway, what else we got going? Anything you got up there?
Tragically, there's not a whole lot going down in the north. So, you have some preseason games that are coming up. Bears going to be playing, of course, their would-be quarterback. So it could be one of those things where they're going to show the world right then and there, you know what? We just scored 55 points on these guys while allowing negative 22. So
yeah. Well, we can cover the East real quick if you want and get that out of the way since Stout apparently fell asleep or isn't able to make it today. But no intro needed. We'll just kick right to it. Arizona Cardinals bring Kyle Murray back to camp after he is tested negative for COVID. They put defensive lineman Kingsley Keke into COVID protocol after testing positive. LA Rams bring Jalen Ramsey back in. He's running 7-on-7s while working his way back from shoulder surgery. And I'm on the damn West instead of the East.
All right, let's move to the East now.
All right, let's go West. All right, Jerry, since I did most of your work, tell us what's going on with the Niners.
Nothing really too big. Jimmy G is back on the field, but practicing on a separate field by himself. So that's a little interesting to see what happens.
Reports are that he's looking good, though. He's looking healthy. His arm strength has improved.
Which you don't know if that's true or if everybody's just saying that to try to get him to be traded. So that'd be interesting to see if he sticks around. How long do they let Lance go if he starts flopping?
Well, I don't think you can go back to Jimmy.
I mean, if he's on the roster, why not?
No, you could physically go back to Jimmy, but if you pull the rug from Trey Lance, you can't go back to him. I mean, it can't be.
Not ready, but
having two quarterbacks, you have zero.
Yeah, I mean, everything coming out of camp is Trey Lance is going to have a breakout year, and everything looks great. And he's playing phenomenal and all this stuff, right? You hear that from everywhere, though. But yeah, I mean, the big news in camp was the big fight between Fred Warner and Brandon Ayuk. That happened after a big hit on practice squad receiver, really. And they got into it, but I was watching live when they interviewed Ayuk after that, and he said everybody was good, no hurt feelings or anything like that. So nothing really else than that coming out of the Niners.
So, quick question: in order for Trey Lance to really have like a breakout year and things like that, how many completions does he have to have? 4, 5?
Jimmy got in the playoffs throwing 6 completions a game, so.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I think it's the same in similar situations as Baker Mayfield. So you have both quarterbacks on the roster, and they were just sitting there waiting for somebody to finally pull the trigger on a trade. Jimmy G, of course, is coming back from injury and things like that. So
I'm just saying. I mean, it's an interesting thing to think about. Everybody's all in on Trey Lance right now, and if Jimmy G is still on the roster for whatever reason, they don't release him, they keep him or whatever, and you get to, I mean, let's say they go out and they lose to the Bears. That's red flags, right? So at that point, it's like, you got a win now team. You got all the people there. You keep your pride and no, we're with them. I mean, yeah, at some point you got to stay with them, but if he's looking as good as everybody's saying,
yeah. But if you pull the plug on Trey Lance, you destroy his value outside of the organization, right? He's not worth anything outside of San Francisco. If you pull the plug on it, he's Josh Rosen. I mean, that's what it comes down to. So then you got to have organizations that are willing to say, we were wrong. That doesn't happen very often. And then you got to get them to admit that they were wrong again about Jimmy G. I don't know if that's even, I don't know if that's ever been done.
I don't know if they would be saying that they were wrong again about Jimmy G. They would just be, we're back to, this is who we got.
It's not who you're supposed to have. When you give the keys to the kingdom to.
I'm just throwing the scenario out there. Okay.
But.
So there's two things. First off, we're gonna harken back to Dennis Green with the Cardinals, and once teams realize that not only did they beat San Francisco, they're gonna be beating everybody else, and be like, okay, they were who they thought they were, undefeated, Super Bowl champs. See, like I said, they're gonna be so good. They're gonna be given the World Series, Stanley Cup, theirs, Soccer World Cup, theirs, the whole thing. That's how good they're gonna be.
Yeah.
The only team that'd be able to beat them are the 85 Bears.
Hilarious.
So, but seriously, you take the keys away from Trey Lance, you have no value. You're back to picking a quarterback in the draft. Am I wrong? I mean,
I get it, but I mean, if yes, you have no value and you're back to picking a quarterback, but if he's not good and he's not doing what he's supposed to do, you're there anyway, right?
Right, but why try to win at that point? If you've conceded that he's not
got everybody else on the team.
Yeah, and that's how it works.
Next year,
But you have an organization that's admitting that they were wrong. They're not going to pull him and just put Jimmy G in so they win games. They don't want to win games if they're wrong. They want to have the highest value draft pick.
I get that, but I would want to win games.
You're a fan.
Let me ask you this now. So even if you have Jimmy G, or even if you don't, even if you have Trey Lance, with that particular system that they're actually running, do you really actually need a quarterback that's going to throw 300 yards a game?
Not with Jimmy G, because he didn't do that.
Right, that's my point. So you could, in fact, go with a Trey Lance just simply because of the fact that as long as you're like a Kirk Cousins, you manage the game well, you don't throw any picks, you leave your team in a situation to where they can have success.
Yeah, I'm just saying, what if he can't do it? Throwing a scenario out there for discussion.
Yeah, the banter around, I get it, but I think if he's not successful, they're not wanting to win games because then they're going to get a higher draft pick. I get it. You have to win games in the NFL, so you don't. Yeah, but no. If Trey Lance isn't the answer, I don't see him turning to Jimmy G, and I think they go somewhere else. I mean, bring in Ryan Fitzpatrick, bring in Joe Mullen, bring in Chris Mullen, Latrell Sprewell. Who cares? Just put someone back there.
Yeah. I don't know if you want a quarterback at 6'9", he kind of stands out.
Mike Glennon's available.
Trey Lance is only like 5'9", so.
But you do have other quarterbacks that actually would be, I don't want to say like a perfect fit, but they would be a fit. For example, all joking aside, Kyle Trask. Keep him, for example, he not only has he been able to actually learn over the last couple of years from someone who's had success, I ain't gonna lie.
You can't learn when you're not by him.
We'll dive into this.
His name in the locker room.
We'll dive into this in a little bit because there is actually a lot of rumors going around about Kyle Trask down south. So
Brady didn't even know his name in week 10.
Anything else going on, Jerry?
Not really.
Right on. Now we're really going to go to the East real quick.
The Seahawks have a huge quarterback battle going on. Who gets to participate on Sundays and act like an NFL quarterback.
So, going East, for real this time.
Yeah.
Giants, put Marcus McKeaton on injured reserve with the ACL injury, and Boston Scott was out for the Eagles with a concussion. Other than that, there's no real news. As Brian is working out, says he's been playing again. But other than that, nothing. So we can go to the best part of the show if you guys want. You ready? Who's ready? You ready? You ready? You ready? I'm ready. All sunshine and lollipops down here. Anyway, so Saints placed offensive tackle Gerald Hawkins on the IR. They did sign cornerback Quentin Meeks from the USFL, and they signed Kiko Alonso back to the Saints. And Kiko Alonso has retired from the NFL as of Friday from the New Orleans Saints. I love when players do that. Kiko has been out of the league for 2 years. He was just going in to see if he still had it, and I just think he realized either one, the Saints aren't what he thought they were, or he just didn't have it. You got to have a lot of passion to suit up and get hurt every day. So, anyway, Panthers camp. Cornerback C.J. Henderson is out day-to-day. He rolled his ankle. That came days after J.C. Horn, their other corner, just came back from the PUP list. And defensive lineman Marquise Haynes has been carted off on Saturday. And in Falcons news, there is no Falcons news. So let's go to Tampa. Chris Godwin back at practice this week, running routes, catching passes. He is wearing a leg brace, knee brace, whatever you want to call it. It's a lightweight brace, so it doesn't seem to be impeding any motion. Scotty Miller's looking fast. Says he feels faster than he's ever been. Mike Evans, this is going to be the shocker of the year.
Mike Yak Evans
came down with a hamstring injury again. And I don't know what it is about Tampa.
Rumor was he was trying to get out of bounds, even though the closest defender was 20 yards away.
Yeah. I don't know what it is about Tampa, but I swear they have more hamstring injuries than any other team in the league.
Heat and humidity, especially this week. Well, this week has actually been a little bit lighter, but last week...
I was going to say, I thought it was cool this week.
Yeah, it was a little bit... Well, I don't know if you want to...
For Florida.
92, 93, if that's...
Right.
If you're at 95, 96, but yeah, that's... Unfortunately, that's what it is, especially when you're by the water.
Miami, they don't have as many hamstring injuries.
Yeah, but that's Miami.
I honestly think it's either field conditions or trainer. I mean, could be your training regimen, but
the field conditions. I mean, every organization has pristine.
Can't hear you very well.
Can't hear you, Jerry.
Whatever then.
I heard that. It just blows my mind every year. The Bucs have receiving core issues with hamstring injuries, and it's never an egregious injury they're running, and they just pull up lane. I mean, anyway, Brady missed practice this week. He came back Saturday, but other than that, no news is good news. Bucs are ready to go into the Week 1 preseason game against the Dolphins. Kyle Trask is set to see a lot of play. Bucs, there are reports out there that Bucs feel he has a long way to go. He's not grasping the game speed, terminology, what have you. There are also reports saying that the Bucs fully believe in Kyle Trask and they want to give him the opportunity to earn that second string spot. It's not a secret. He's not competing for the first team job. I honestly don't think he's really competing for the second team job. I think it's blank effort. But you're going to see a lot of Kyle Trask. So all you Trask heads, that's a real thing. I didn't just make that up. Be watching Saturday.
So when you heard that, were you like getting like a schoolgirl?
Oh man, It was a frustrating pick for me. I don't want to get back into the whole Kyle Trask debate, but Let's just say not needed, not wanted. He's here. All right. On that, I have no real news in the NFC South. What matchups are you guys looking for this week? Go ahead before you go into that.
So you were talking about, of course, the Dolphins and things like that. They had a little bit of a thing down there in Miami, to where, what is it? The owner got a wrist slap, things like that. But they
7-game suspension.
They actually had 2 draft picks actually taken from them. I mean, the whole thing. You're looking at some serious time, I guess you could say. If you want to kind of go with that, but all for what? Talking to some old guy about maybe coming down.
2 old guys.
2 old guys maybe coming down.
Yeah.
It's a good thing they didn't allegedly sexually assault 26 women. They would have got a real stiff punishment.
But I mean, you look at it. What started this whole investigation into the Dolphins? Does anyone remember?
Gruden stuff, right?
No, Bill Belichick accidentally calling Brian Flores, calling the wrong Brian. Why is nothing being looked into for that? Why isn't, I mean, I hate to say it, but there's 2 parties to every phone call. Why isn't Tom Brady being investigated or Sean Payton?
Well, Sean Payton's out of the league.
Not at the time.
Retired.
Yeah, but
right.
Maybe suspend him.
You could put a suspension on pending on his reinstatement in the league. But yeah, it's just, and what are they just? They're just not going to touch the golden boy. I get it, and I'm not arguing. So, what?
That does kind of make you wonder. I mean, the NFL hasn't really looked all that good this past couple of weeks, simply because of, as we talked about, the Sean Watson and that situation there. You got Miami in that situation there, so you do need to have, and I get that they kind of sort of covered themselves. I understand that. However, if they were to put out some sort of a look, for this you get this, for this you get this, people would understand a little bit better than we've been having a discussion about it because of a phone call that Bill Belichick may or may not have made on purpose or not. And
right.
I think that the way that he kind of thinks, maybe he kind of knew that something was going to come of it, and that's why I'm saying he may have actually called the accidental number on purpose. With Belichick, you never know.
Yeah, I read something.
Sitting at his computer during the draft.
I read something like there's been 2 times where the NFL has disciplined team by taking away draft picks, and both times Tom Brady was involved. That just blows my mind.
That's because he's a crooked player.
Hey, was a crooked man, walked a crooked mile. Got there crooked fast, winning in crooked style, but still wins.
Yeah, well, when you have, your balls are lighter than everybody else's.
Anyway, Hall of Fame weekend this weekend, but before we get into that, I started a topic, and I want to see if we can touch on it. What matchups do you look forward to seeing when you watch preseason game, or if you don't watch preseason game, just say you don't watch them, but what do you look at when you watch a game preseason-wise? I mean, what are you looking for?
So, usually for preseason, I don't necessarily like watching the Bears because of the fact they're like, okay, so you missed a block. Okay, so, you didn't catch the ball. Okay, so what on earth were you even doing there? Things like that.
Why do you watch during the regular season?
So, anyway, I don't like seeing the negatives. I pretend I didn't even hear that. I'm trying to be nice to you. It's your 40th birthday. I'm trying to be nice to you. You're making it very, very difficult. First off, being a 49ers fan. Come on. Get a grip. So, but that's usually one of the things that I don't like seeing. But what I do like watching is actually everybody else, in particular, in the division, simply because I'm like, okay, that guy's going to be a problem. That guy's going to be an issue. Things like that, especially defensively and things like that. So, it's almost like doing my own little scouting report for the Bears. As I fax them all the information. After they come back and say, okay, who's this?
So you're part of the circle?
We are like this, peas and carrots.
A circle of suck. But, like, myself, I like to watch the rookies, and a lot of times you'll see like skill position is the easiest to watch, so that's what I watch. I'm not too keen on watching two big guys wrestle up front, so I'm gonna watch the skill positions. I'm really looking forward this preseason to see how the Bucks young corner goes. McCullough goes up against the outside, playing outside and then into the boundary as well. See how he does in man-to-man, see if he fits the scheme. I really think he was a good pick. I think he's going to be a starter in the league, if not this year, very soon. But I do like watching the skilled positions. I like watching receivers' first couple steps off the ball. I know it's stupid. I know most people just watch the game, but that's how I am. I try to watch it from a coach's angle, trying to see if I can see techniques or things that, are bad, good, what have you. But that's just me. Jerry, I'm assuming you don't watch much preseason ball.
Not really.
Yeah.
No, not really. I watch like the first series, and once the starters go out, I'm.
Yeah. See, I'm a junkie though. I try to watch from a coach's point of view when it comes to skill positions. The year Tristan Wirfs was drafted, I wanted to see how well he would go up against men that have more than one move. In college football, you face a lot of guys that have just that one move. You don't have that counter. I want to see how Tristan Wirfs would go against guys that do have multiple moves. It's nice to see young rookies step into the league and actually adjust to the transition. So,
I mean, I definitely watch from the coach's angle as well, but I just lose interest when it's like, oh, who's this guy? Or
yeah.
You don't know anything about half the guys that are out on the field, and you'll probably never see them play again.
No, actually, you will. I think now. This is the good thing about this year's preseason is you're going to see a lot of these guys. They're going to get picked up by like the XFL, the USFL, the NFL, and all these leagues starting up. It's good for your bubble players, I guess, but there are practice squad players that do make an impact later on. I mean, John Randall went to the Hall of Fame, was never drafted. Kurt Warner. I mean, it happens. So you'll never know what you're going to find in a preseason game. But anyway, Hall of Fame weekend this weekend. We had, excuse me, I think it was 6 players inducted. I have my notes somewhere.
It's a shame we didn't have any sort of graphics or anything.
No, we did. I just wanted to make sure I was on the right page with it. But Tony Baselli, first Jaguar to go into the Hall of Fame, first Jaguar ever selected. He looked like he could still play today. I mean, he was a beast.
He used to be. But unfortunately, his shoulders were so bad that that's why he retired. And that's the thing with offensive linemen, of course. You always tear rotator cuffs. You mess up your shoulders simply because you have 300-plus pounds coming at you every single play. But he was pretty much a total package. Especially he was mean when he had to be, run, block, pass. He was the guy that you definitely needed. And that's certainly one of the more deserving players. He should have actually gone in when he was first eligible, but look at Orlando Pace, for example.
Well, this is one thing I don't understand about the NFL. If you're a Hall of Famer, you're a Hall of Famer, right? What makes you more of a Hall of Famer 12 years later?
Well, you still have to wait 5 years. It is. It's one of those things, but
safe travels, Billy. All right. Anyway, it just doesn't make sense to me. And there's players like Sam Mills. It would have been great to hear Sam Mills give his speech at the Hall of Fame. But anyway.
The podium.
Tony Baselli, first Jag ever to go in. And there he is, Sam Mills. Outstanding linebacker for both the New Orleans Saints and Carolina Panthers. Carolina Panthers are honoring him this year with the game during the regular season. The Panthers really grabbed a hold of Sam Mills. Like that, he's their face, I guess maybe it's because they don't have another one, but he's the man they've always clung to. It's where the keep pounding comes from.
Well, yeah, but with Carolina, for example, they had a quarterback that was there for a little while. I mean, he was. Never mind.
Jake Delhomme?
Yes. Yeah, we'll go with Jake.
Anyway, you're referring to Cam Newton, Pam Newton, Fig Newton.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wide receiver Cliff Branch, Oakland Raider. Why is he not in earlier? What made him Hall of Fame worthy now and not earlier? It just blows,
man. It's politics.
Just blows my mind. Richard Seymour, another Raider, went and played for the Patriots. Got in. I mean, he deserved to get in. He was a part of most of the Raiders. God, I can't speak this morning. Most of the Patriots Super Bowl seasons. Here you go, Jer. Bryant Young. Only played with the Niners.
Yeah. This guy was a beast.
He really was. Out of Notre Dame, like I mentioned before, same high school. There. I guess you could say, even though we went to the same high school, there was a little bit of a talent difference.
Yeah.
First off, he's a little bit taller. Golden Domer with the Notre Dame, and he was a bad man. He was fast. He was strong. He was a player.
I remember watching him. He was a man among boys for sure.
Yeah, that's a good way to. Yeah.
You talking about Andy or Brian? Their talent level's so close.
Well, yeah, I used to watch film on their one-on-ones together. It was a dog fight. Yeah.
Leroy Butler, again, Hall of Fame, definitely worthy. I think him going in kept a couple players I think belong in out. We can get into that here in a little bit, but definitely Hall of Fame worthy. I don't know if he was responsible for the Lambeau Leap. I might be wrong, but I believe he was there when it started. Again, why is he now a Hall of Famer or not? I don't understand that with the NFL. And as we get into that, I have some people.
It was him for the Lambeau Leap.
What's that?
It was him for the Lambeau Leap. Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to make sure.
I thought you were right. I just looked it up to confirm.
But when you actually look, even with like the advent of the Lambeau League and stuff like that, who cares?
You guys know?
Nobody.
Here's a trivia question for you: what team is responsible for the most Lambeau Leaps?
Chicago Bears.
There it is.
So anyway, I was building towards our pick six today. There's a lot of players kind of log jammed into going into the Hall of Fame. I understand it's a business and they want to have a show or a spectacle every year and only allow certain people into that fraternity. But in my opinion, once you're in or once you're Hall of Fame worthy, you should go in. I mean, there's no real criteria that they hold. It's just votes by the people on the committee. But go ahead, Andy.
Real quick, let me ask you this. Now, with some of the controversy that Tom Brady's had over the years and stuff like that, is he going to be a first-teamer, which he really should be?
Oh, absolutely.
Or would it be one of those things where, Deflategate and, all these tiny little things that might keep him out for you?
Never going to happen.
They don't affect him now.
Let me pose this question to you. Yeah. Tom Brady essentially has played two NFL careers. Pre-40, post-40. Could Tom Brady be the first player ever to go into the Hall of Fame twice as a player?
I don't think that's how that works, but sure.
I'm being serious. I mean, if you look at his career from the pre-40, so you're looking 4 years ago.
There's other people that have played that long of a career, though, too.
Kickers don't count. So looking at his numbers, you have a Hall of Fame career with that first section. Okay, you look at his numbers post 40. His numbers stack up against every quarterback in the Hall of Fame post 40.
So did Jerry Rice's.
Post 40?
Yeah.
No way.
Okay.
But my point being was that Tom Brady, you can definitely see two divisions of careers with Tom Brady's numbers. His numbers after 40 are as good as his numbers after he started understanding the game going into like his third season. What? So, I wanted to pick 6 players that we thought belonged in the Hall of Fame that aren't there. So for that, I think we should just go into the pick 6. Let's hopefully this one works this time. If not, we're going to the other one. All right, we'll go to this one. And we're back. I don't know why that one doesn't work anymore. I think it got pulled because of YouTube, but I'm not sure.
I got a stat for you real quick, though.
Okay.
I pulled it up because I remember reading it the other day. After 40, Jerry Rice had 185 catches for 2,509 yards. The only other catches by a player over 40 in the NFL history are 2 catches for 4 receiving yards, both by Tom Brady and Brett Favre.
Okay. Now my question to you is,
over 40.
is that Hall of Fame career compared to his numbers previous?
Those are really good stats for being 40.
They are good stats.
You have to look at the position, though. So, once you're a quarterback, period. You're not moving around. He might have actually lost a step or two, but it doesn't matter because he took off.
If you go to the stats post 40, Tom Brady was a receiver twice, according to Jerry.
Yeah, but I remember in a Super Bowl or something like that where he ended up, botching that catch. But it's a totally different thing because you look at Jerry Rice, and I remember reading and hearing about the fact that he was taking ballet classes to be able to improve his craft.
He won Dancing with the Stars.
What?
He won Dancing with the Stars.
Oh, Hall of Famer. That locks it. We don't even need stats.
I mean, come on.
But Jerry Rice was getting hit almost every single play. Tom Brady's not getting hit every single play.
If he does, there's a flag.
If he does, there's a penalty.
So if you necessarily compare, it's apples to kumquats.
Right. So I'm going to start with Cowboys. I'm going to give you 4 players that I think should go in because I thought Mike would be here and I was going to bounce off him. But Daryl Johnston, I think, belongs in the Hall of Fame. I think a fullback needs to be put into the Hall of Fame. And I'm not talking Franco Harris fullback when the game was different. I'm talking an actual fullback going into the Hall of Fame. Jason Witten has solid numbers. Compared with most tight ends in his generation and in the Hall of Fame, I think he belongs in the Hall of Fame. Chuck Howley is the first defensive player to ever win a Super Bowl MVP. I think he belongs in the Hall of Fame. And this one is kind of iffy, but Darren Woodson has numbers that compare to Hall of Fame cornerbacks. I think he definitely at least belongs in the conversation to go in the Hall of Fame. And since Brian's not here, we'll go to the Pack. And a lot of the Packers guys are like 1970s to 1980s, but James Carter, yep, the president, Jimmy Carter, linebacker 1970 to 78, Rich McGeorge, tight end 70 to 78, Mark Lee, Andy, you might remember this guy. He's a cornerback for the Green Bay Packers, most famously known for drilling Walter Payton out of bounds. Just for that reason alone, Hall of Fame. And Brian Noble, defensive lineman, was there with Green Bay Packers, led him in almost all statistical defensive line categories, sacks, fumbles, strip sacks, fumble recoveries from 85 till 93. Got injured in 93, was the starter when Reggie White came to the Pack, got injured, ended his career. But I believe those guys also are Hall of Fame worthy.
So there's a couple other names on there that, if anything, I would probably have for consideration. First off, Havarti. You know, you might have different types of sharp cheddar, different types of goudas and things like that.
I'm a ricotta guy, kind of like
There you go.
mixing with the sauce.
Nice little mascarpone if you're making some, tiramisu or something like that.
Right.
Let's look at the grand scheme of things also. It's the Packers.
Here's a Packer that I know you agree belongs in the Hall of Fame. You can't say no to this one. Steve McMichael.
So he was actually on my list also. And if you actually look at his numbers, you're like, okay, so let's look at the intangibles. He was the guy that took all the brunt of the hits while Dan Hampton and all these other guys were actually doing their thing. Who made the NFL, the Hall of Fame? So why on earth wouldn't Steve McMichael be in the game? He was one of your defensive tackles that actually was productive. There's no reason he should not be in the Hall of Fame.
I agree. Steve McMichael belongs in the Hall of Fame. They need to do it now.
They do need to do it now.
It needs to be done before he's gone.
Yeah, and that's
this Art Medell belonging in the Hall of Fame from Med. That there's two different school of beliefs on Art Medell. Am I wrong? There's people that think he belongs in the Hall, and then people that want to crucify him for moving the team. But he did good things for Baltimore. What do you got with your Bears? Like I said, Mongo, I believe, belongs in. He can go in. But the good thing about the NFL, you go in for every team you play for, because you're not going in as, say, a Buccaneer. You're going in as a Hall of Famer and joining a whole new team. It's a whole new fraternity. Kind of like that, as opposed to where you got Major League Baseball, where they've got to don a cap, they've got to pick the team they're going in with. You represent every team you're on when you go into the NFL Hall of Fame or Pro Football Hall of Fame.
So with the Bears, of course, I have Steve McMichael. Absolutely, defensive tackle. He was mean. He was fast. He was a player. He was an absolute player. He should absolutely be in there. Like I said, he took a lot of the brunt. Dan Hampton got a lot of the glory. You had, of course, Richard Dent. You had, all these other players that were able to do what they did simply because he was there I think he played well over 100 games straight. So, there's no reason why he shouldn't be in. So here's one that's actually almost came true. Devin Hester, return specialist. He was kind of like a early edition of Cordell Patterson, I guess you could say. He did in fact catch a few passes for touchdowns. He was incredibly fast, incredibly elusive. That's one of the reasons why I made him such a good returner.
My problem with Devin Hester is there is no real skilled special teamers in the Hall of Fame. You got a couple kickers. I think there's one punter. Special teams affects the game 4 plays a game. I mean, that's the only issue. I believe he's Hall of Fame talent for his position, but they've got to start letting these guys in that are skilled at one craft.
For the most part, I would say yes, I agree. However, when you take the opening kickoff of a Super Bowl, tragically they lost that one, and actually take 108 yards for a touchdown, then you can actually, your ears can kind of perk up. But he literally would change games with his returning.
Big kick away from.
Well, that year that they made it to the Super Bowl, there was at least 3 or 4 major plays that he did not score a touchdown that actually changed the entire paradigm of the whole entire game. So then you go, in fact, from you're down by 2 touchdowns to all of a sudden you just get a punt return for 35, 40 yards. Now you put yourself in a position to where you can actually score, get the ball back, and that's exactly what they did. And so just by the fact that he actually changed the game to a point with his returns, I think is one of the reasons why he should be in.
Right on.
So here's one that actually I have no idea why he's not in. Jay Hilgenberg. played center for the Bears, of course, during the '85 and things like that. Jay Hilgenberg was an offensive lineman. He really was. You know, he was like a Dermody Dawson. He was like even a Mark Stepnowski. You know, I've always liked Mark Stepnowski's play in Dallas, even though the team itself, you know, he was just one of those players that actually kind of changed it. Steve McMichael, we of course mentioned. The next one right here, I believe he's actually, I don't know if he's still with the FBI, but when you have a move that's actually named after you, the Peanut Punch, you should go in the hall just for that.
Right.
But he actually changed a lot of the defensive things like that too. So you think you're Froggy, you're running down the field, you know, it's an open field, the whole thing. Next thing you know, hey, I don't have the football anymore. He would actually change the game.
Yeah, Tillman was on the top of my list for the Bears. I really think he belongs. I mean, he's not getting enough recognition at all. I think he made the list this year for semifinalists. I might be wrong on that, but there's no reason why he shouldn't be in there. Granted, he doesn't have the interception stats and things like that of some corners in the hall, but look at how many times he changed field position or changed the course of a game. I think he stripped the ball an average of 0.5 times a game in his career. That's impressive.
Right. When you can actually change the outcome of the game, or potentially change the outcome of the game, but you're changing the paradigm of the game simply by being there. You don't have to have, you know, a career of 100 plus interceptions. You don't have to have a career of, you know, thousands of tackles when you can actually change it by just simply punching that ball out. Even if you don't cough up the ball to where the Bears take over, you're still actually doing two things. First off, you're killing their momentum. And secondly, on a more longer-term basis, as soon as the guy is looking to catch the ball again, now he's going to be, you know, kind of tucking it in like this just to make sure you're punched out again, which you're only going to get 3 yards if you could have gotten 7. So, you know, just by that aspect alone, he definitely should be in the hall. Here's another Bear center for you, Olin Crüe.
Yeah, I got him on my list as well.
Literally, I mean, every year. He was strong, he was tough, he was mean when he had to be, and he was a player's player. He really was. There's no reason why he shouldn't be in. I think one of the reasons why a lot of Hall of Famers that should be, you know, coming from Chicago, they do have the most NFL Hall of Famers in the history. They have, you know, 30. So it's going to get to that point where there's going to be so many Bears that they're going to have problems, you know, with jersey numbers because they're all going to be retired. They're going to have problems with, you know, space in the Hall of Fame because they're all going to be, you know, here's everybody else and here's the Bears thing over here.
Right.
You know where they don't have a problem with space is Lombardi Trophy case.
No, you're right because they have the one right there.
Yeah, that's the one.
And finally, here's one that, in fact, I know Brian Urlacher is probably saying, you know, hey, what's up with this?
Yeah, he belongs for sure.
Lance Briggs.
The most important question about Urlacher, though, is will the bust have hair or no?
Urlacher's bust's already in there. We're talking about Lance Briggs.
Oh, sorry.
He's a few steps behind.
Did they put hair?
Okay, Lance and that tandem of Lance Briggs and Brian Urlacher kind of molded that whole defense in the 2000s, 2010, you know, that iffy area. I don't even know what you'd call that, 2000 to 2010, 11. But
yep, but that's pretty much what I have right now. There's actually at least another 12 to 14 Bears.
Yeah, we're running out of time for the Bears. All right, Gary, you got a list? You got a list?
Yeah, we'll start it off with Jimmy Garoppolo.
Okay, here's a quarterback that is really controversial. I think you think he belongs in based on his numbers. I kind of feel he's iffy. Jeff Garcia.
I mean, I think he did good at what he did. Whether that's all Fame worthy, I don't know. I know he played elsewhere, right? He went and played for the Commodores or something too, right? Yeah.
Took the Bucks their only playoff appearance since the Super Bowl until recent times.
Yeah. I mean, I have a list of other guys. I mean, he's not eligible yet, but Frank Gore.
Yeah, Gore will get in.
I think that's a lock. Roger Craig is still not in.
We said that last season, right? Roger Craig belongs in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, so he's not in. You were talking about fullbacks, Tom Rapson.
Another.
Why?
He's still coaching right now.
Why? Why is fullback an overlooked position?
Yeah, so
It's a worker position. There's nothing glorious.
I strongly believe that's one of the reasons why the Niners still run a fullback.
Yeah.
Running back coach. Sticking with running back, Garrison Hurst.
Ooh.
He was really
He was great like 3 years, right? Best in the league 3. What about Ricky Waters?
That's who I was going to say him next. Yeah. He played for a couple teams.
Yeah.
Another Golden Domer along with Jerome Bettis.
We were talking before the show. You had Brent Jones.
Yeah. How's he not in already?
And Merton Hanks. I mean, I know he's not a good dancer, but
Merton Hanks was one of the best free safeties of his generation.
He has the longest neck.
And he could see over the line of scrimmage well. But no, he belongs to the Hall of Fame as well. I mean, in my opinion, if I'm a sports writer voting for the Hall of Fame, he gets in. But you got anyone else you want to throw out there? I'll lock down the show then.
Well,
yeah, it's like.
What about like Dana Stubblefield, people like that actually help, even with Brian Young?
That's a good point too. I mean, Stubby needs to be in there as well. I mean, Jesse Sapuro is another name you should consider throwing in the Hall of Fame. It's crazy how many people that are sitting waiting that deserve it, that probably will get it posthumously, give them the old Santo, if you will. But yeah, let's go to Tampa. I got a couple bucks that I think belong in the Hall of Fame. I'm going to start with Simeon Rice. Simeon Rice had a great career before he even got to Tampa. He was an elite NFL pass rusher with the Arizona Cardinals. Came to Tampa, changed the whole dynamic of that defensive line. Because then you had Warren Sapp and Simeon Rice to look out for. You had Booger McFarland and Simeon Rice on the. I mean, Simeon Rice just changed that whole dynamic of that defense. Rondé Barber should be in the Hall of Fame. 30-30. First man to do it. Second all-time solo tackles for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, only behind a linebacker. Mike Allstott. Again, tell me why fullbacks aren't in the Hall of Fame, and then give me a better fullback belongs there than Mike Allstott. Mike Allstott belongs in the Hall of Fame. This one is kind of questionable. I should probably get some pushback on this one, but I think Hardy Nickerson is another name that belongs in the Hall of Fame. Had a solid career with Pittsburgh, came to Tampa and changed the whole chemistry and dynamics of that locker room and the team. Allowed them to change the whole infrastructure of that defense because they gave him a linebacker with the ability to call audibles on the field. Hardy Nickerson and Derrick Brooks side by side were one of the greatest tandems in the NFL. And last but not least, soon to be in the Hall of Fame from your Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Rob Gronkowski. See what I did there? No, but
your list did not contain Chris Conte. I'm confused.
Yeah, I thought he would be on the Bears list. Lovie Smith should go. Both the Bears. I don't think Lovie's career in Chicago wasn't bad. If he could have ended his career in Chicago, he might be in consideration for Hall of Fame.
He's still in Illinois, right?
No, he's down in Texas. He's a Texas coach now.
I thought he was coaching the Illini to 0 whatever season.
But we've passed the hour mark, gentlemen. I've got stuff I got to do today. It's my last day off, so.
All right.
Time to go. Got any closing remarks?
Go Niners.
Yes.
All right, we got them. Let's kick it out.